because folks was like, hey, there was a shooter, and look, there's a guy in Kansas City who just got arrested. That must be him. They must got him. You know, basic journalism these days. Tonight, this just in, the KC shooter was a Middle Eastern. This just in, the KC shooter was a Latin immigrant. Oh, wait, it was just a couple. Fani Willis wades in deep waters while the snitch gets disbarred. Possibly. I got shoes, you got shoes, all gods. What are those? It's Black History Month, and sometimes you gotta wonder if the opposite is really what some are afraid of. Find out what we're talking about on this week's episode of The Blackman Show. Welcome to the BS. Now let's go. What is good? What is good? Ladies and gentlemen, I am Seven Blackman, and this is The Blackman Show, a place where we can dissect the news with a little bit of 7 cents. So I appreciate those of you who felt brave enough last week to check in with your boy in the comments, leaving your numbers of how you're feeling. Now, look, remember, it's a scale of 5. 1 is good, 5 is horrible. And that's in the areas of your physical self, your mental self, your financial self, as well as your spiritual self, right? Now, I'm hopeful that this little exercise will continue to encourage us to talk about our actual issues, or at least take a moment to assess where things may not necessarily be right. I mean, can't fix nothing if we don't acknowledge that it's broke, right? So, how are you feeling? Everything okay? Do we need to chat? If I can be an ear or a place for advice, anything like that, please hit me up. Seriously. I'll be sure to check in with you at the end. But right now, let's get to the news. So being the weird show that's based out of Missouri, I figured it a good idea to give you guys an update on the latest of what's been happening with regard to the Kansas City, Missouri shooting and all the happenings since last time we talked. So for a little bit of background, absolutely, the Kansas City Chiefs won their 58th Super Bowl, their 4th in the franchise history. Patrick Mahomes wins his 3rd out of 5 trips. Now, after the parade, the team congregated at the stand that was set up at Union Station, which is the train station here, in the city, where the team, the coaches, and everybody else received and gave their last words on the job well done and a season goal accomplished. Now, the shooting took place around 2 p.m., which is around the time when things were kind of dying down anyway. But basically you have bad actors who immediately tried to politicize it, linking it to terrorism, previous shootings, illegals in the country, etc. Now, sometime after that, gunshots rang out, causing people to scatter in different directions, leaving their belongings behind as people were hit. Now, one person was unalived, unfortunately, and that was mother and local radio DJ Lisa Lopez Galvan, as well as 22 others whose ages range from 8 to 47. Now, that also includes a young boy whose story is really horrific in the sense that he didn't even know that he got hit. He thought he had an infection or a rash or something like that. Come to find out, he had a bullet lodged in his back. Now, as a result of that, 3 people were detained and 1 was released. So that was 2 juveniles, 1 adult, and the adult was the one who was released. Now, pretty early on, rumor was the shooter was already identified, even though it was still under investigation. So the name Sahil Omar was actually trending on X for quite a little while as a result. And then you have the arrest of this young man, Denton Loudermill, who's been connected with the shooting, even though at best all he was doing was being drunk and disorderly at a parade when just about everybody was drunk and disorderly. Now, thankfully, Mr. Louderhill was released without being cited, but that doesn't stop the fact that his life has been absolutely turned upside down as a result, to the point that he's receiving death threats. And now he's had to seek legal representation as a result of that, because here's what happened. The man was sitting in one spot when the shooting took place, and police was like, hey, clear the area, and he didn't want to leave. So he got arrested. As people were taking pictures and photos started to circulate, first person they see is a black man in handcuffs, and before they could get the words out, the picture already went out, and the picture's worth 1,000 words. So opinions were already formed before the words could even be read, because folks was like, hey, there was a shooter, and look, there's a guy in Kansas City who just got arrested. That must be him. They must got him. Basic journalism these days. Now, most recently, it's been released that 2 individuals, Lindell Mays and Dominic Miller, have both been charged with second-degree murder of unaliving Lopez Galvan. Apparently, there was a staring match that turned into words turned into guns, and suddenly, y'all saw what happened. Now, both men were hospitalized, and I guess that's a good thing because now they both can have their day in court and face sentencing. Now, being charged with second-degree homicide, here we go. Being charged with second-degree homicide, they face up to life in prison. Now, I definitely don't wish this on anybody, but if this is how sensitive we've gotten as a people, to the point where staring at somebody turns into what you looking at, and now guns are drawn with complete strangers I could think of better reasons to pull out my weapon and try to assault someone with it. So this is when the 7 cents kicks in. Can we come a little closer? Yeah, all right. Too close. Perfect. All right, so here we go. So here's my thing, right? You're in an environment. Let's say you're in an environment where everybody carries guns. I know people. I won't even put myself there. I know people who have been in environments where everyone has weaponry and they didn't, and they survived and they were fine. And I'm not saying that that's the way to go all the time, but I'm just saying they survived. I know I did that as well. So I'm just saying that, and I didn't come from a family that was weapon carrying. That was then. But all that to say though, if you grow up in an environment even where that's going on outside, what happens inside the household should help prepare you for what's going on outside of the house. You dig? Ergo, if you never learn how to resolve conflict, then you run the risk of acting irrationally over the smallest things. You know how people, you ever heard the term sweating the small stuff? That's what they talk about. So now that they've identified the shooters, here's a couple of things that I've kind of taken away from this whole ordeal. How come there's been no update on the children or what's going on with the other 2 children who have been detained? I mean, now you got to wait at least 24 hours before somebody can be charged with homicide. So we know that that's not the case, but I haven't heard anything else related to what's going on with those kids and that to that effect so far. And there's no word if they were actually related to the adults who did the actual shooting. Now, I think that here's something that I thought of that was kind of eye-opening as I was looking this thing up, right? Are you aware of Missouri's gun laws? So Kansas City and St. Louis, especially, all cities are legally unable to make your own gun laws for separate localities due to the state law that was passed in 2014 that prohibits cities and counties from enacting any gun policies, right? Now, that's all in the name of consistency, and I can understand that completely. But because cities can create local ordinances, Kansas City and St. Louis in particular require permits for open carry. If you violate that, I mean, you get like a ticket and maybe a fine. So, I mean, I guess that's basically like the cost of doing business at this point. Now, this actually makes attaining and possessing a gun a lot easier in the state. As a matter of fact, according to Everytown for Gun Safety, the largest gun violence prevention organization in America, Missouri ranks 38th out of 50 states in terms of gun law strength, and we lack, quote, any of the foundational gun violence prevention laws, end quote, which would include things like background checks and or purchase permitting, secure gun storage requirements, requiring a concealed carry permit, and more. And honestly, it's that sort of lacking caring about how guns are bought, only that they are, that can lead to bad things happening. And then I was wondering, like, how can 2 people get charged with the murder if only one person, I believe they found that Miller's bullet went into Galvan? Like, if only one person has done the actual unaliving act, how can both be charged with it? So I'm not a legal specialist or anything like that. So I played one on TV, but I'm not a legal specialist or anything like that. So if y'all know, please let me know or entertain me in the comments. And lastly, how is it that these cops were able to move so quickly? I mean, how were they able to assess and completely match this gun to this bullet so quickly and so assuredly at that? I mean, did you know that the average ballistics test takes about 7 to 10 days? I mean, it's only been 7 days today. Seriously, it took my wife to remind me, but with the rumors of the copious guns confiscated, how were they able to find out that that gun that belonged to that young man was the one that did the duty. You know what I'm saying? I'm not even questioning the cop's ability. I'm actually applauding it. I just know that there are tons and tons of other unsolved deaths in the city that would love that sort of swift response as well. So put a finger down if this is you. You come home and you smell and see smoke coming from the kitchen and see your daughter in the house, and you wonder where her child is, to come and find out that her child is in the stove, the oven. That didn't happen to anyone, but okay. So I guess this is the only place where something like this is taking place, and this is completely, like, when I heard about this, it blew my mind. It absolutely blew my mind. I couldn't believe that this was a real thing, that this actually happened. So, in a shocking incident, Mariah Thomas, a 26-year-old mother from Kansas City, Missouri, right, has been charged with a Class A felony for death of her 1-month-old infant. The Jackson County Prosecutor's Office charged Thomas with endangering the welfare of a child on February 10th, right? Now, according to court documents, she told investigators that she mistakenly placed her baby in the oven instead of the crib. I'm still trying to understand that part. So here's what happened, right? Now, it wasn't until her father got home that she realized her mistake when he could smell smoke. She said, basically, I thought I put the baby in her crib and I accidentally put her in the oven. Now, somebody who was claiming to be a friend told the Daily Mail recently that Mariah may have mental issues, saying that she thinks and acts like a child and that she, quote, didn't have the mindset of an adult, end quote. Now, upon arrival at the scene, officers observed that the infant victim had apparent burn wounds. The KC Fire Department responded and declared that the 1-month-old was dead at the scene, stating, "We acknowledge the gruesome nature of this tragedy and our hearts are weighted by the loss of this precious life. We trust the criminal justice system to respond appropriately to these awful circumstances." Now, as of now, a judge has reduced the bond for Mariah Thomas to $100,000. Now, if convicted, she could face anywhere from 10 years to life in prison, according to Missouri state laws. Before I get into the questions I just kind of want to leave you guys with, here's a question I kind of want to ask Mariah. Now, I get it, mental issues and all that stuff, but who said turn on the oven? Like, that part. Who said to, like, I could see you put the baby in the oven, whatever, sure, whatever. But turn it on? That's different. So here's the thing. So all right. So I'm probably gonna tell way too much about me than I need to tell. But so a relative of mine was once incredibly drunk, absolutely hammered beyond compare, right? This person came into the house, opened up the oven, and began to urinate onto the oven door. And now, at no point did this person turn on the oven. They just did their thing, fell asleep on the kitchen floor, woke up in their own material, and got up and eventually got up and went on with their day. But again, at no point was the oven turned on. That's the part that kind of just bothers me about this whole thing, right? So even with the inclusion of the mental, the possibility, because I didn't see any reports that said that it was confirmed. But even with the possibility of this woman potentially having mental issues, what part of putting a child into a crib is turning on the oven? That's all. That's the part. That's the part I'm trying to understand. So if anybody can help me out with that, seriously, I'm befuddled, honestly. But I will leave you with this. What do you think her penalty should be? And does your opinion change knowing that she has or may have mental issues? I'd love to know your thoughts in those comments. So everybody's been talking about the latest in the Fani Willis trial, or the trial that's trying to remove Fani Willis from the prosecution of one Donald J. Trump. Have you guys seen it? So I'll do my best to give you guys some of the highlights. I don't want to get too deep into the weeds on this one because I'm sure everybody has already done that. And again, I'm not a lawyer, and I don't want the smoke. Now, contrary to what a certain Kira at Newsweek would have you to believe, DEI is not why this woman has her position. I'm just saying that there are a lot of things you can say about Fani Willis and the whole debacle of information that's coming out about her relationship and about the case in general. But one thing you cannot say, at least I don't think you can say with a straight face, is just that this woman just DEI'd her way into this position. I refuse to believe that. I'm just gonna say that. Just for a little bit of background, Fani Willis, and I was calling her Fanny because it's F-A-N-I, and I thought it was, Fanny if you're nasty. Anyway, I thought it was Fanny. You know what I'm saying? But so she said it's Fani Willis. I'm thinking it's short for Stephanie. You know what I'm saying? People be trying to be funny with their names, something like that. I didn't look up what her real name is, so y'all forgive me for that. But anyway, so Fani Willis is prosecuting former President Donald Trump for seeking 11,780 votes from the state of Georgia, right? Now, she appointed Nathan Wade in 2021 as lead prosecutor at a rate of $250 an hour, charged to the state of Georgia taxpayers. Now, although he wasn't the first choice, admittedly, he was the choice. Now, he has been a judge, primarily handling misdemeanor cases in Marietta, Georgia. He's been in family law practice for over 10 years, but he has zero experience in RICO cases. That's just the fact. Now, the issues stem from the fact that Willis and Wade purport themselves as being in a relationship and having been as much since 2022, after Wade's appointment, which was in 2021. Now, his former partner, former divorce attorney, and former friend of Wade, apparently, Terrence Bradley, has been siphoning privileged information, allegedly, to the Trump camp, stating that the Wade appointment was done under false information. Now, that false information includes the fact that their relationship apparently, I'm saying apparently and allegedly a lot because these are legal people and I don't want no smoke, for real. But apparently, their relationship was established years before it was announced, like I said. And the trips that he and Willis took were basically the result of that relationship and a way for her to get kickback payments for the appointment. So that's basically all this is about. They're trying to find out if his appointment was under the right pretenses, and also to find out that she's not benefiting from his appointment. That's really all this is majorly about. Everything else is just speculation and color. Shout out to Nate the lawyer, the one with the YouTube channel, that is, not the freaky one. But they might both be. I don't know. I don't know what Nate do. I don't know what Nate do for real. And the brightest color of the day was...
It only made sense to me that I would be your next witness. And I've been very anxious to have this conversation with you today. So I ran to the courtroom.
Fulton County DA, Fani Willis, right? Now, you can talk about her testimony however you guys want and, say whatever you need to say about her, say that she's aggressive or say that she's combative or lingering on points that didn't matter or anything like that. Sure, and I can understand that. Part of me thinks that, and again, so I don't have a legal degree, and I used to want to get one way back when, and but plans are always different when money is involved. I'll just say that. But getting to my point, I think that there was a strategy. I kind of think there was a strategy to what she was doing. I think it was almost intentional. Like I said, I wonder, is there testimony timed? Like, is there a certain amount of time that's given to ask Ms. Willis her questions? Because if so, then she was she was an absolute genius. That's exactly what you're supposed to do. I mean, every interview I've seen, or every time I've seen her interview anywhere online. I've seen it in a 2-hour block, right? Just an absolute 2-hour block. So is that all they have? Do they only have 2 hours to ask a question? It's kind of like some, well, I guess it's illegal, but it's kind of like some congressional stuff or whatever. Like, you only got so long to ask these questions, and I'm here under my own free will, that sort of thing. Like, is it that sort of thing? Or, I mean, again, because if she only had 2 hours, then her strategy was genius. But, I have no real clue because, again, I don't know for real. But like I'm saying, so you couldn't get her at all. She was slippery. And so you could ask her something like, hey, is your dress pink? And she'd say, well, I mean, I was always taught that the color pink is a kind of a mix between red and white. And I guess if you look at this, you could say it's kind of reddish or white, but I don't know if it's now. What was the color you said? You said now it's pink. So now it's kind of more magenta, but I don't know if it's So she would do that whole thing and with every single question. You know what I'm saying? Even when they were like, hey, stop it, don't do it. And she's like, okay, yep. Did it anyway, because it seemed like she only had a limited amount of time to answer a question. Again, I don't know how these proceedings go, but it seemed like she only had a limited amount of time or they had a limited amount of time to ask her questions. And she was like, well, if you're going to try to get me, you better get me for real. And I don't think they did it all. Moving on. So there was one sticking point that popped out, and that was the fact that their trips that they had together, both Willis and Wade, she was saying that she handled all of their trips in cash. Mr. Wade would pay for the trips. I mean, Mr. Wade is the one that makes $250 an hour at the taxpayer's expense. But Mr. Wade would pay for a trip that they both would be on. But then Miss Willis would pay him back in cash, allegedly. Now I have to absolutely apologize and give the real props that are necessary to Mr. Nathan Wade, alpha man who's guilty of mishandling the alpha stroke and taking this woman on these trips to the point that he has to handle reimbursement in cash. All of this, sir, it's not your fault, sir. It's the stroke. So some other people who were also involved were Mr. Taylor, who was a former partner of Wade. Now, what was interesting about him was the fact that information came out about his SA that took place in the workplace when he was working with Wade, to the point where he had to apparently leave up to $30,000 in escrow with Wade, or with the Wade partnership, to pay the woman for her suffering, even though initially he said that he had no idea what the money was being used for, and only admitting that he left it there. So here's some of the takeaways that I got from the cross-examinations that took place, right? So apparently all these lawyers are just holding on to and can put their hands on $10,000 or so at any given time. There's no receipts anywhere ever, and no tax claims for income, and there's no documentation at all saying what the money is for or where it comes from. Now, not to be forgotten, as Brother Wade said, everything that wasn't outlined on the single receipt provided was handled in cash. Now, as a former IRS person and somebody who worked for his share of taxpayers and doing taxes for both individuals and businesses, this sounds like absolute bull. I mean, I think in legal terms, this would be considered specious. There's a word for you. Now, lawyers do know the loopholes, though. So this is why this works. Because one, when you're handling cash or when you're talking in cash, from what I've heard and from what I've read, you can claim up to $10,000 or have up to $10,000 in cash on you, unaccounted for. Now, it kind of gets into a gray area when it's not actually put onto your taxes and there's no receipt anywhere of you using it, spending it, or doing anything with it that actually shows that this is where this money delineates from. Because, all money has to be counted and accounted for. They have to know what you're doing. They have to know what you're spending, because reasons. But to me, the real story was what the actual hell was going on between Mr. Wade and Mr. Taylor. Because Taylor seemed to be disturbed when he was asked if he was still friends with Mr. Wade after learning that Wade no longer considered him as such. I mean, honestly, it seems like your boy Wade was fired or allowed to quietly walk away from his at work SA, which was immediately brought up in order to disqualify his testimony. All is fair. I mean, you sitting there giving information to the other side, and they like, man, we helped you walk away from this SA that you done did without having to serve any time. Slow down. I mean, so honestly, it seems like Taylor was still upset and sought revenge, and that's why he started leaking information to the Trump camp. And I won't lie, I think the saddest part was when the judge halted the questioning of Mr. Bradley, who is a lawyer, because he wasn't sure that Mr. Bradley knows what privileged information actually is. And a lot of his testimony seemed to be coming as a result of being Wade's divorce attorney, even though that relationship of attorney-client wasn't fully established. And, because they asked him, did you have any documentation? Did you sign anything? Did you do a handshake agreement? When did you become his lawyer? What do you mean? But they had a relationship. Basically, that's how that went. Which leads to another sad fact that he's either broken the attorney-client privilege in telling his privileged information, or he's bad at lawyering and doesn't know what he's doing. I mean, either of these could really lead to this dude being disbarred. But from what I've seen, it doesn't look like she's gonna get removed. I mean, if I were to somebody who was being a judge and being impartial and all that stuff, it didn't seem like they had anything that was real, that was substantive, to the point where you could say, well, oh, this establishes, this gives me reasonable doubt to say that this woman has actually done these things and now we must remove. I don't think anything of that nature does that, but I think it's unfortunate that overall it puts a cloud over the whole of her case against one Donald J. Trump. So I still think there is more to come. But what are your thoughts on the case so far? Have you been keeping up, or are you focused on real life?
How dare you?
In a not so surprising turn of events, your boy Donald Trump ventured into the world of fashion with his latest enterprise, a line of gold high-top sneakers. Because of course he wears those. I mean, these shoes named Never Surrender high tops, of course. What else would you call them? Rainbow foot heaven? Q-side high? Look at it. No offense. No, I'm just playing. Hey, respect. Anyway, these were unveiled at SneakerCon in Philadelphia just last week. Now, the launch of this Trump shoe drop coincidentally comes amidst a storm of legal troubles. Your boy Trump and his companies were recently ordered by a New York judge to pay a staggering $355 million, baby, in penalties for fraudulently overstating his net worth to deceive prospective lenders. Now, this penalty comes after Trump was ordered to pay an additional $83.3 million to writer E. Jean Carroll for damaging her reputation as she accused him of sexual assault. So your boy is looking at least $500 million plus interest in fines and penalties. And because of that, people have claimed that Trump is using his presidency and subsequent political activities as a means to make money. Seriously? I mean, it's not like he's been able to raise $250 million in donations after losing the election. Money which went to a super PAC that donated heavily to his businesses. I mean, maybe that's the silo where he keeps all his gold, where he got the idea for these shoes that he's selling for $399 a pair. And actually, I mean, they're sold out. That's right. They're already sold out. They've already been sold out, and they're gone before I even reported this. But never fret, my pet. You can always get yourself some yet. Bars. Hop on eBay, because currently they're selling anywhere from $1,500 to $45,000. And just in time for St. Patty's Day, folks. Now, the launch of Trump's shoe line had some sneaker convention goers holding up "Sneakerheads love Trump" signs. Others booed and shouted, and critics have called the shoes tacky and very, very dumb. I'm critics. I mean, I'm not critics, but I'm a critic, and I agree with that critique. And they've also accused Trump of grifting off of his followers. Whatever do you mean?
Even the sneaker thing. I was on social media last night. Very interesting as you see black support eroding from Joe Biden. This is connecting with black America because they love sneakers. They're into sneakers. They love this is a big deal, certainly in the inner city. So when you have Trump roll out his sneaker line, they're like, wait a minute, this is cool. He's reaching them on a level that defies and is above politics. The culture always trumps politics. And Trump understands culture like no politician I've ever seen.
Question for you on that point, though.
Yeah.
Will the people that are excited about the sneakers and excited about Donald Trump, will that translate into them going out and voting for Donald Trump?
Well, anybody willing to put $400 down for a pair of sneakers? Yeah, I think that's commitment and love. It's
hope
something.
you're right.
It's something. It's affection.
I mean, I think it's incredibly insane. I think everybody can agree to that, but it's also kind of genius. I mean, look, you've got this judgment against you, and you add that to the pile of judgments that are already against you, right? And the walls are just closing in on all sides, right? But then you have this thriving throng of thugs, thespians, and travelers threatening in the throes and thralls of theatrics that they're indeed more than a threat, to the point that they thrash the Capitol for a thrill through the things from my throat. Then those thick necks will have no problem forking over $400 for some Temu 12s with the Brett Favre copper sleeve shit on the side of it. Do you want a pair of this Americana that most certainly is not made in America? Why do we continue to get caught up in spectacles such as these as the world we know it slowly grinds to a halt? The banking systems begin to move toward digital-only currency where your every movement will be monitored,
Tracked, shut off, even if they don't like you. And who are they?
Let's check in. So I think so I've been kind of in my head a lot over these past couple days since last episode, and I think I am to a point where I can at least acknowledge that maybe some of the things that I've been putting on myself maybe a little bit more than what I thought. So when I said I felt like a 1, but it feels like a 4. Now it's all mentally, I'm just completely just at a 3. It's just a 3. So I'm at a 3 mentally. Physically, I'd say I'm at a 2. I think physically I'm getting a whole lot better. Spiritually, I say I'm still at about a 2 or a 1, depending on the time and when you ask me, because my spirits is up. I maintain a good outlook throughout the day. I meditate. I take some time for myself. I breathe, do my breathing exercises during the day and in the evening. So I think that helps with that in the sense, as well as the fact that I know myself. I know myself, and I feel a lot better knowing who and what I am. And then financially, well, I mean, it could always be better. So, but I'll say I'm at a 2. Sure, I'm at a 2. But a 3 is possible. and this is like golf, remember? So the smaller numbers are good. But let me know where you guys are. Where are you at? Hit me up in the comments. Let me know where you check. So as for that 3, I have plans to pull back and rearrange some things again. See, that's in that though, that's where there may be a little bit of anxiety, because anxiety comes with change a lot of times. So, but you have to change if you want to grow. So that's all it is to that. So, but I'd love to know where you guys are. Make sure you hit me up in the comments. Let's check in with each other. Let's do it. But with that said, this has been The Blackman Show. Once again, this is your boy 7 Blackman, inviting you to peep out our merch found at theblackmanshow.com, where you can get you one of these. I mean, this joint, I think it came out very dope. I mean, I don't think the pics and all that stuff do it justice. You just need to check it out. The graphic and the feel. You're just not gonna get that from a picture. I wish I could feel it to you so you could understand. I wish, like Kanye said, I wish I could give you this feeling. I wish I could give you this feeling. I wish I could. It's a good feeling. I'm just saying. blackmanshow.com. Follow the show on all the socials at Show the Black Man, where you can send whatever clips you want to this black man to react to, or you can drop me a line at tbs@theblackmanshow.com and put in the subject line, Ask a Black Man. Check out our last issue of Ask a Black Man, and I'm sure you guys especially will dig it. Now, if you enjoyed this video, please be sure to hit the like, hit the subscribe button, share this video with your peeps, and even hit the notification bell. I've been told that YouTube likes it when you like those things. I thank you all for watching this far. I am grateful for each and every one of you. So please, until next time, take care of each other and check in with somebody who cares about you. Like me, but it ain't gotta be me. Either way, peace. And I'm out.